If you are wearing yourself out, running around, writing blogs, creating social media, posting on social media, doing YouTube videos, doing podcasts, editing all of those things, and you just need some help, but you can't afford to hire somebody in the States, stick around. I'm going to teach you how to hire your first virtual assistant. What's up, fam? I'm your host, CMH, founder of StartupU. StartupU is an interactive learning space for online business owners. Before we get started, make sure you guys like this video, hit subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and don't forget to drop me a comment below. Also, pro tip, make sure you check the description because everything we're going to talk about today, those links will be included in the description. Okay, so we're continuing our productivity series. If you haven't been following the series, I definitely recommend you go back and watch some of the other videos, but also the next video, a quick teaser here, is going to talk about how to create streamlined processes, right, for your virtual assistant to actually utilize. So we're going to be talking about an outsourcing guide after we talk about hiring. So it's great to hire somebody, but you've got to have a system they can work with, right? So that's what we're going to talk about next. Make sure you guys like and subscribe so that you're available for those videos. I'd hate for you to miss out on that. Let's go ahead and talk about it. We have been hiring people in the Philippines for years at this point, and many of those people have been with us, in some cases up to 5 years, right? Our entire team is overseas. We are the only people, my business partner and I, we're the only people based in the actual States, right? So everybody has been overseas. The reason we chose the Philippines is because there's just a lot of cultural overlap, right? People in the Philippines, they understand, their English proficiency is tremendous. The guy that's editing this video, shout out to AJ. We have the same interests. We love comic books and superheroes. We love sports. I mean, there's a lot of things. There's just a lot of overlap. So you're not constantly trying to overcome this cultural barrier or a language barrier or anything like that. It's especially when you're writing content and stuff, you want somebody that understands the culture but also understands the language so that you're not having to go back and kind of overcome that all the time. So I highly recommend it, but I also recommend before you hire any virtual assistant, make sure you check out the book Virtual Freedom by Chris Ducker. Chris Ducker is a friend of the show and actually has done a tremendous job of providing resources to you and to everybody about hiring and what you need to know, specifically with some of those cultural differences. So definitely something you want to check out before you hire your first virtual assistant. But let's go ahead and talk about the mechanics of it. Onlinejobs.ph is the site that we use to hire all of our employees. And I'm going to show you why, because it's extremely friendly. It was actually created by John Jonas. He's based here in the United States. And it's a great platform. So as you'll see here, this is literally no different than an Indeed or a Monster, any hiring board that you'd find here to hire somebody in the States. It's just specific for the Philippines, right? So what you'll see is they do a great job, I think, of a lot of different resources. They have a training academy. They have blogs that they write. They tell you about paying people, and we're going to talk about that later. They also have other blogs, and this will really help you a lot. This is a salary guide. So a lot of people don't know because they're acclimated and used to salary wages in the States, right? So they know what minimum wage is here and kind of what certain jobs entail, and they can search other companies and what they're paying. It's not as transparent in the Philippines. So this actually is great that they give you a lot of resources so that you can understand not only what the typical pay is, but you can also look at other specific positions, maybe one that you're hiring for, and kind of see what the range is, right? Obviously, the lower end is more part-time positions. Higher end is more full-time, and depending on their level of skill. But you can look at certain things, and maybe you're going to piece off stuff that you really need help with. So maybe you need help with graphic design, or you need help with SEO, right? So you can see what the typical average pay is, and whether you need part-time or full-time, you can kind of make a distinction as far as, what you should offer, right? So going back here to the dashboard, what you'll do is you go to add a job post, right? Pretty simple. Probably seen this before if you've put something out to hire, or if you've applied for something yourself, you probably looks very familiar, right? Job title, you're gonna mark whether it's full-time, part-time, or freelance. You're gonna put in your wage. Now understand there is a conversion, right? So something that I do often is I'll just go to Google and I would just put PH to USD conversion, right? And it's pretty simple. They put up a chart for you. You put in $300 a month if that's what you want to offer, and it'll tell you how much that is in Filipino dollars, which are called pesos. Next, what you'll put in is your contact name, if you're going to be the direct point of contact, and then the skills that you're looking for that specific role. Now, my suggestion would be try the free version. It does tell you, and I'll show you this here, it does tell you the pros and cons of each of having a free account versus a paid account. Now, even if you decide to use a paid account, one of the things that I recommend you do, and here's a chart here so you can see exactly what you get. Use it until you hire somebody, and then just cancel the account. So you pay $69. It's worth it potentially for you to have the person that you really need and pay the $69 or $99 and then just cancel it because they might be with you for years and that $69 was well worth the money spent. But again, let's look in and see for you what's best, what's the most practical for where you're at, but just know there are various options. You're probably going to see a lot of applications come in pretty quickly. It's not uncommon for us to have 50 plus applications come in. It's a very, very popular thing for Filipinos to be looking for jobs that's remote, specifically with the current climate with a global pandemic. Really a lot of people looking to work from home, but also too, and this is kind of, you need to understand the wages. There have been some situations where it may not sound like a lot of money to you because you're like, it's like $3 to $5 an hour. But to them, for other jobs that are there, it's pretty competitive, if not far superior. So in some cases, what we found is we're actually paying somebody double what they were going to be making before, even offering what we would consider to be an entry-level $3 an hour rate. So in some cases, not all, some people make good money in the Philippines. It's not uncommon for people to have a lot of skills and make good money. However, there are some people that immediately it's going to be an upgrade. Even if they're working part-time, they might be making just as much, if not more, right out of the gates, just because of our standards versus their standards when it comes to wages. So make sure you understand that. Literally sophisticate yourself as much as humanly possible, but that'd be my recommendation. All right, next. So you understand that. You've got your job posting up. You've got resumes coming in. What I'd recommend you do is this. When you see a resume come through, if you got 50 people, what I would do is create a Google form. So this is a generic Google form. I'm not going to show you ours specifically because it is proprietary and I don't want it to be in the public space for the world to see. But what you'll see here is I've just pulled up a generic. There's a job application form. It's pretty simple. What I try to do, and this is something we'll cover in a later video about hiring specifically because this requires a video. It really deserves one in and of itself. But I would put in things that align with your cultural values, not just skill-related questions for your job application, but treat it just like you would a normal hire in the States. Like this is somebody you're bringing on your team. Just because they're in the country, it's no different. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people hiring virtual assistants is they're just like, oh yeah, well, they just play on social media and I can just say post social. And you want to incorporate them on your team. You want them to be involved. You want them to be in meetings. You want to have Zoom talks with them once a week at least, and have channels of communication. So this sets the precedent. You're treating it like a normal job hiring position. So something I'd recommend is to take them through the ringer. I wouldn't go through, if you get 50 responses or applicants for this specific posting, it's not feasible for you to literally get on a Zoom call with all 50. So what we try to do is create this application. We're looking for specific responses that align with our cultural values as a team, as a company. And then what we do is we whittle it down to about 5 to 10 based on skill, but also based on company cultural values. All right, next what I'd recommend you do once you see those 3 to 5, in addition to their application, their written application, I'd recommend a couple different personality tests. 16 personalities is a great one. It's a free one. Obviously, Enneagram, if you're familiar with Enneagram, that's a great one. And then there's one other one that I recommend that's really great, and maybe not a lot of people have heard about this or talk about it, but Positive Intelligence by Shirzad Chamine. He wrote the book called Positive Intelligence, and it's great. So there's IQ, EQ, and he talks about PQ, which is basically how positive are you? And they found that people that are more positive typically are far more successful, and there's a correlation between the levels of success in relation to how positive they are. One of the other benefits of that is he talks about your saboteurs. So I'd recommend for you as well to take this, not just the people you're looking to hire, but it'll give you, if you look up here, there's a PQ score. So that's one assessment you can do where you can go through and it tells you your score and it tells you what it means, but also your saboteurs. The saboteurs, the reason I love to layer this on top of all hires, not just virtual assistants, is because here's the deal. Let's say you've got somebody that has a high victim, right? Of all the saboteurs, they've got a high victim. And let's say that person's in support. Support can get ugly. People, hurl accusations and they make whatever. I mean, as your business grows, you're going to have people, hopefully not many, but you are going to have people that they're disgruntled, right? If you have somebody that's a high victim, right? Or somebody that's a high avoider, how do you think they're going to handle that situation, right? Probably not well. It's not even fair to put them in that position because it's going to be pushing their buttons, right? So we try to find people, it's not to say these things are bad, we just want to understand who they are. So we don't put them in positions, or if they are in a position that's going to push their buttons, that we know how to help them navigate that. We can provide resources to them. We can help them, kind of deal with those situations. We can create an environment that is conducive to their success. Your job, as with any hire, is to create an environment where your team can thrive and succeed. That's your number one job as an employer, is to create an environment where people can succeed, right? Individuals can grow and succeed and thrive in their specific roles. So I want to understand who these people are, in addition to the skills that they bring to the table, in addition to do they align with our cultural values. Those are very, very important things for me that I tend to gauge over any other thing, is who are they as a person and do they align with what we do? Now, kind of wrapping things up here, I would absolutely recommend that, like I said, at least once a week, you have some kind of dialogue, some kind of communication with your virtual assistant. Bring them into the fold, bring them into the mix. Make sure you have structure. Make sure that structure involves when you're expecting them to work. If they want to create their own schedule, fine. If you're going to work 10 to 6, great, your time. Awesome. I'm going to hold you accountable to that. So we're going to talk about in the next video. Hopefully you go through this and you're able to hire your first person, and great. The last thing I will say, and I did forget about this, is the payment process. So the reason I like onlinejobs.ph, the reason we use it is because beyond the hire, you can use something like TransferWise, and you can actually pay them directly, versus some platforms make you pay through the platform itself, meaning they're going to take a little chunk out of what you pay them. So if you pay $3 an hour, maybe they take 20 cents, right? Well, it adds up. If you pay somebody monthly or bi-weekly for 5 years, that's adding up over time. All right, so I prefer the one-off fee, monthly, pay $69, get the hire, and then pay them directly. It's pretty simple. You're just going to have to use that tool. It's like I said on Google to do the conversions, but you can pay through TransferWise. It's pretty quick. In some cases, it's almost immediate, but at least within 1 to 2 business days, that payment will go through. It's an awesome way to do it outside of the conversions, which can get a little sticky. That's it. So definitely recommend checking that tool out as well. Again, I'm going to include all of these resources, including the Online Jobs PH, including all those personality assessments. You can check all those things out. Feel free to use them. Feel free to replicate that for yourself. Again, the last piece of advice I would give you is make sure you treat them like an actual employee. Make sure you treat them like they are a part of your team, because that's what they are. That's the biggest mistake I see people make, is they just act like it's, well, I just dump this on them. Doesn't work. I'm telling you, you're going to be very, very disappointed if that is going to be your course of action pursuing having a virtual assistant. But again, make sure you guys stick around. We're going to continue our productivity series in the next video, because I'm going to teach you how to build an actual outsourcing guide where you basically build a system that you have that back and forth communication. So there's no issues with training. There's no issues with communication. There's no issues with streamlining your processes. Really going to be beneficial. I think if you're serious about hiring a VA, you're not going to want to miss that video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, check those links below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.